Hey guys, what's up? It's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel, Real Talk Recovery, where we talk about recovery from addiction and I share my life with you. So I'm just putting groceries away, and yesterday I had a request for a video from Melinda. She wanted me to talk about what do you do when you have someone in your life who is a drug addict and they don't think there's anything wrong with the way their life is. They say that they're functioning, okay? But they're not functioning. They've lost their jobs, they've lost houses, they've lost everything. And one thing I want to share with you guys about the disease of addiction is that a lot of the times people are in denial. They're in denial, okay? They don't want to come to terms with the damage that they are that they're having on themselves. They don't want to admit the damage that they have ruined relationships because the denial. Don't even know I am lying. Okay? Denial in drug addicts is so strong. And it's because who wants to admit that their life is totally screwed up? It's not a good place to be. It's not fun. I certainly don't like doing it. It wasn't something I looked forward to doing, saying, you know what, I've screwed up my whole entire life. You know? But for each addict, you guys, there's a time when each person comes to terms with all the havoc that they have wreaked. And they have to own up to that, you know? They have to own up to it, and they have to take responsibility. Whether that happens for them when you want it to happen or on God's time. That's the problem. A lot of the times when we have a loved one that is struggling in active addiction and we see them going through all this heartache and pain, and we know if they would just listen to us, right? That everything would be okay, that their life would get better, they could change. But you guys, you have to understand something. Do you not remember when you were out there in active addiction? If somebody's not ready to change, they're not going to change. And I'm going to tell you this. For some addicts, they get comfortably numb. They get in a place where they don't think they can do any better. That's how it was for me. I got to a place where every day when I got up, I wanted to kill myself. And that was okay. I was dealing with that. That was my normal. You know, you get into such a low self-esteem, such a low down area of your life that, go ahead baby, there's really that you can't see the light of day. It's so difficult. The only way I can tell you guys to help someone who is delusional, in denial, and thinks that they don't have a problem is what you need to do is you need to love them from a distance. You're going to have to let them fall the rest of the way down to the bottom. Because while you're still there caring for them and catching them when they fall, and they still have that little bit of support. You know, sometimes we have to pull away all that and show somebody, hey, look in the mirror. Look, there's nobody here now. It's all you, with you and your drugs, all alone. And I'm going to tell you guys something. With methamphetamine addiction and heroin addiction, they're two totally different ends of the spectrum. You have stimulants and then you have downers. Okay? The things that people that are high on methamphetamine do are totally different than the things that people do that are high on heroin and opiates. Methamphetamine is probably one of the most scary mind fucking drugs because don't worry, they can't see you. The person is constantly in a state of stimulant, okay? They're constantly running around thinking they're Superman, delusional. You have to understand, stay right there. With stimulants, hold on. You have energy, and so you think you're still taking care of business. You still think you're doing what you need to do, right? With people that are on heroin, we know they're not doing what they need to do. They're passing out. Yes. They're nodding out, right? And so, whoop, I didn't get you, don't worry. And so, with people on methamphetamine, it can take a lot longer, I feel like, for them to hit their rock bottom. Now, this is just my personal opinion, because I was an addict of both drugs, okay? Opiates took me down to my knees a lot quicker because of the physical dependence that I had on them and the withdrawal that I kept going through. When I was on methamphetamine, I acted a lot more erratically. Stop that. And I did things like that were a lot more dangerous, like, you know, getting out and stealing and just being erratic. Like, that's what happens when you're on methamphetamine. With heroin and Roxy's and other strong opiates, I was like in one place, like nodded out all the time. Sorry, my son is flashing, y'all. Boys will be boys. He thinks I guess he thinks he's part of the Girls Gone Wild, y'all. This boy over here. Stop, Nate. Nate, there's people on the internet that don't want to see your ninnies. Lord.
Can I go ask Ashlyn if he's coming home?
Yes, you can. Go over there and ask her if she wants to come over. So, or you can play over there. Okay. It really does depend, you guys, on the drug that the person is on. I believe, because believe me, I've been on all of it, when and how they hit a bottom. With methamphetamine, for me, I was in so much denial. I thought I was still taking care of things. I thought I was taking care of my son, but I wasn't, you guys. I was so spun out that I was ripping things apart. I was thinking people were there that weren't there. It was like I was constantly hallucinating, constantly. And with oxys and roxys and heroin, I was just like so incoherent that you were like, I knew when I was like that I wasn't no good to nobody else. But methamphetamine tricks you because it gives you this energy and you're like, yeah, I can do this and I can do that. And so that's why a lot of old schoolers, old people, like guys that are 40 and up that are still doing meth, they think in their mind that they're handling business, right? But their families are worried about them. Maybe they're like, they don't have a home anymore. Maybe they do have a home, but it's all ripped to shreds. It's that denial, the denial that sets in. So we have got to pray for them to come. That all we can do, you guys, all you can do is continue living your life in recovery and showing them what the benefits of recovery are. Hey man, like, I love you. I'm here for you. You know, if you got off that shit, you could be doing this and that and that and this with your life. But I'm telling you guys, even when people were telling me that, it wasn't until I was willing and ready to make a change that I made the change. And that's hard for me to say, because I wish I could say I was ready and willing when I got pregnant with my son. But I wasn't, you guys. I wasn't even part of the way ready. And I am, like, listen to me, I struggle with that. I am so ashamed of that some days, but I can't let that shame and guilt keep me sick. I can't let that shit hinder me, because that's what it wants to do. It wants to hinder me. And so, you know what? It is what it is. I know there's a lot of other ladies that have been through the same thing, and that just goes to show you. Addiction is so cunning, baffling, and powerful, you guys, that even a mother's love sometimes can't break those chains of addiction. Can't get that bondage away from you, you know? And so, I just want you guys, if you have somebody in your life that's struggling and they think they're still functioning, okay, they say nothing's wrong, they've got this, I promise you, unless they're in total and absolute denial, they don't really think that. Deep down inside, they know their life is fucked up. And I promise you, if they thought that they could do it, they would. But right now, in their minds, they don't think they can. When I was at my worst point, I'm going to tell you guys, recovery wasn't on my mind. My next drug was on my mind. My next fix was on my mind. I was blinded by my addiction. There is this passage in the big book, and it talks about how none of us like to admit that we are bodily or mentally different from our fellows. Okay? It's a bust to the ego and the pride when you have to admit that we're different than normal people. Our addict minds, we don't respond the same way other people can to alcohol or drugs. When we take them into our bodies, we act like a fool, you know? And so for a lot of people, it's really difficult to smash that pride and ego and to admit that they're flawed and they are not like normal people. You have to think about it too, you guys. If you're struggling with somebody who's a grown man who's in active addiction, which I think, Melinda, that's what's going on with you, that ego and that pride is what's keeping him in that addiction too, because he thinks, I can get this. I can do this on my own. You know, he is in a delusion, okay? Delusions of grandeur is what it talks about in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's what we have when we're in this active addiction. We see ourselves as something that we're not. All we are is sick, suffering people, right? But when we're on meth and alcohol and heroin, we think that we're on top of the world. You know, it's those delusions of grandeur. There's so much, you guys, that I could talk to you guys about how to tell what... If you have to ask yourself the question, am I an addict? Then you're an addict. You just might be an addict. If that thought crosses your mind, okay? If you have to use or drink to do everyday activities like go hang out with your family or break up the anxiety when you go out and about, then you might be an addict or an alcoholic. Okay? If you're reaching for substances to change the way you feel on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, you might be an alcoholic or an addict. Okay? No, I don't believe in functioning alcoholics or addicts. Okay? Now, I know that if you're holding your job and you still have a roof over your head, you might think of yourself as functioning, right? And that's to you. But anyone who is knowingly harming themselves with alcohol and drugs, that's no way I want to function. I don't want to function like that. You're poisoning yourself. You're willingly poisoning yourself, willingly killing yourself. And so that's functioning. And if you are still functioning and you haven't lost your job and you still have money in the bank, I want you to just keep on going. Keep on going at the route you're going, and let me know in another year or two if you still got that job in that bank account. Because, just like it talks about in the big book, this disease, okay baby, is progressive. It gets worse, never better. So, it's slowly progressing. Where maybe when you started out, you said, I'm never going to drink on Sundays. Sunday is reserved for the Lord, right? And so every week you would drink on Friday and Saturday. You wouldn't drink during the week, just on Friday and Saturday. 6 months goes by. One Sunday morning you wake up and you've got a terrible hangover. And you're like, well, maybe just one drink on this Sunday. Okay, so that's the only one you have. What happens is those maybes or those, I'll just do it this one time, those start turning into habits. Those start turning into things that you do every single day. And that's how this disease gets you. You might start out extremely responsible. You might start out a weekend warrior. Just like me. I was a weekend warrior, baby. I didn't use during the week. I was getting my party on during the weekends, kicking it with all my girls in high school and shit. All my college friends when I got up into college. Weekend warrior. Oh! And then I would go into Monday feeling like shit. Weekend warrioring for so long, Eventually, you're going to bleed over into Monday. And that's what happened for me. And then the next thing you know, I was a 7 days a week kind of drug addict. I didn't take no days off. Days off and I'm going to be sick. Days off and I'm not going to feel like myself because drugs are my normal now. So there's really no such thing as functioning. Like I said, using drugs and alcohol and hurting and harming yourself, that's no way to function. You know? So I think for me, and I also think for my subscribers, my viewers, if you have someone in your life who thinks that they're still functioning and thinks that they've got it all under control, I know this is hard for you to do, but I want you to step back and I want you to let them fall. You've got to let them fall on their own. Because we can't keep rescuing them because then they're never going to learn. Believe me, I've had to let go and let God. And it's so hard, you guys. But I'm telling you, sometimes it has to be done. Now, if you're a parent of someone who is, under the age, a teenager, 18, 19, 20, and you can still get your child help, they're still on your insurance, then of course if they're willing to go to treatment, get their butts into treatment, get them some help, And I'm not telling you guys to give up on people because they're old, but what I'm telling you is once you get past a point where you're not your parents' responsibility anymore, then you have to start reaping the consequences of your lifestyle. And so once you allow that person to start reaping those consequences, things might change then. And if they don't, then you just have to let them continue to get those consequences. Bam, bam, bam. Because eventually those consequences are going to stack up. That's what happened to me. Prison, okay? Getting pulled over, getting charges for theft, okay? All these consequences were coming. Nothing was knocking me down. I kept on getting high. Finally, the ultimate consequence came. My son was taken. And I was still getting high in the treatment center. Then finally, something clicked for me while I was there, and I started making a change, you guys. But if I could be a statistic, I could still be out there using. It's just grace. It's grace. I'm telling you, we just have to keep on sharing our stories to inspire others. Now, I'm going to get off here because I could babble on forever about this topic. But like I said, there's really no such thing as functioning, okay? Anyone who's willingly killing themselves with drugs and alcohol, that's no way to live.